Well, we've got a magpie there and he's watching everything we do, which is fair enough. I ain't bothered. Hi Maggie. What's that, Maggie? Oh. Anyway, I'm not one into conspiracy theories. I mean, that all started with Robert Kennedy, correction, with President Kennedy when he was assassinated. So there were so many theories going around that there was videos put up, books written, and it all turned out to be nothing more than, as I say, a conspiracy. Wangaratta was just right. As you can see, the sun is shining up here. I remember I was talking about conspiracy theories. Well, it started off with global warming, and then it went on to climate change because they couldn't warm the world up because it's getting colder. Now that's my personal opinion, and I'd hate to upset anybody because you've got to be so careful what you say. And we've driven up here a couple of 100 kilometres up into this Wangaratta place, which is up near the border of New South Wales. And if you can look, Melbourne, with low-hanging clouds. It rained all day in Geelong, it was raining down there. It was just like it was in Ireland when I was over there in the end of July and August. Well, I was there for all of August. But it's low clouds and rain straight down. Now, as I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, which is a little bull because that's all we have is theories, isn't it? Because we're not told the truth anymore, and I've got to be careful using the word truth. But if you have a look at thing HARP, H-A-R-P, environment management, I think they call it H-A-R-P, I'll put it up. It explains what could possibly be happening. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but we had to leave Melbourne. It's now 30 odd degrees here. This is up at the monument, the RSL, and it is hot. It is over 30 odd degrees, where Melbourne was, what was the temperature in Melbourne this morning? About 11 degrees, was there something? It was muggy, horrible, raining, and yet outside all the major cities, it's got cloud over it, and it's raining, and there's floods. Now, is that God's creation, or is it man-made creations? I'll leave that up to you, because I says it's all a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy, the fact that we don't have a government anymore. We have corporations / businesses. Everything is privatized. Courts, unfortunately, the poor old police force, which are struggling to get members, and without them would be really stuffed, and even with them we're pretty stuffed because there's not enough. But definitely, in my personal opinion, after being overseas, waking up in Melbourne with low cloud, raining, and here we are up in the country, way outside the metropolitan area, a couple of 100 kilometres, I said, 3.5 hour journey, whatever it is. Beautiful, sunny day, and it is hot.
Seating systems. We've got three primary components of our equipment here. The first is the control module that you see behind me. Then we have our actual cloud seating flares. The cameras for security. It also helps us observe weather conditions in real time and make sure that all of the equipment is operating correctly during a storm. Inside these canisters are the flares with the seating agents. The canisters are used as spark arresters, so they prevent sparks from reaching the ground. So if we pull off the spark arrestor, you can see the flare inside. The ignition of the flares are controlled from the control module that's behind us. So the white triangle there is a cell service modem, and then the solar panel keeps us powered. Inside we have a battery and then a control board. So the control board interacts with the software. We're linked or synced with the software in Utah currently, and that allows us to fire or ignite any of the flares from that remote location.
Because of the lack of clouds and proper wind conditions, today is not a good day for cloud seeding at all. But Garrett and his team are going to light a flare for us anyway, so we can show you how it works. There's just one small problem. The battery in the control module died shortly before we arrived, but it's nothing a little jump start can't fix. After a little juice from Garrett's truck, it's time to set off the flare.
The primary seating agent in this is silver iodide. Silver iodide is a simple compound. It's polar in nature like water, So there's chemical properties that help attract water molecules to silver iodide. It's also structured molecularly similar to ice. So it helps generate or helps spawn the generation of ice buildup, and then that becomes a hailstone or a snowflake that falls here primarily as rain. So one flare like this has billions and billions of potential sites for that water to congregate around. We'll launch them in sequences. We watch the radar to see when bands of the highest concentration of liquid water are passing above us in the clouds, and we try to target those high concentration pockets in the storm systems. We'll launch between 3 and 20 flares for a typical storm. Once the flare is lit, it takes a little bit of time to carry up into the clouds, and once it's up at the proper elevation, it'll take about 20 minutes to instigate the rain or the snow process. So overall, you're probably looking at about 40 to 45 minutes before you're seeing the maximum result. And that's why we're stationed miles away from our target area. So we have very specific targets that drain directly into major water basins, and we time these events to correlate with rain above those intended targets. One of the biggest questions, or most common questions that we receive, relates to the safety of silver iodide. Silver is biologically inert, so it will not interact in a negative fashion with plant or animal life. Iodine is actually a critical building block of a number of hormones in animals, so it is safe as well. In fact, if you look at table salt or baby formula, you'll see iodine in its molecular form as an additive in those commonly consumed substances.
But what about other potential adverse effects? Could cloud seeding affect communities outside the targeted areas?
Sometimes there is a concern about robbing Peter to pay Paul. So are we benefiting California at the expense of Nevada? And the truth is that storm systems, when they move over off the coastline, only about 10% of that moisture is going to fall in the form of precip. And we're looking at increasing that to about 11% because we have about a 10% increase in the natural storm's productivity. So going from 10% to 11% in California has an insignificant impact on the amount of precip that will still be available in Nevada or Utah.
Built into the program are kind of checks to make sure that we don't come across anything negative. When there are high intensity storms, we won't seed. If the reservoirs are full, we won't seed. If the rivers are flowing a lot, maybe near flood capacity, we won't seed.
We hope that the conditions that exist right now will turn around and that we will not face the severity of droughts that we're facing, particularly this year. But a number of scientific articles are suggesting otherwise. And as we look into the future, we need to again consider conservation first. So the ability for us is to conserve how we use water and the ways that we store the water. And then layer on that efforts like weather modification and cloud seeding to help increase the rainfall that we do receive. It's very important that we take advantage of every opportunity we have to generate water in a sustainable way.
Anybody who's interested in learning more about cloud seeding, I've got links to scientific studies and official reports down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe for more. If you want to see more What the Future episodes, check out this playlist right here. Hope this video seeded your imagination. Conserve water. See you next time.
The fires in Hawaii were not natural. People were incinerated in their vehicles and in their homes because there was no warning, and it was that fast, and it was that hot, that quick. What winds? The hurricane was over 700 miles away. What winds? The internet needs to be dissecting those weather patterns, those winds, to the molecular level. We've seen the NextRad towers. We've been studying the weather patterns, all the weather modification all over the country, all over the world. Everybody is paying attention to all the intentional military-grade weather modification with NextRad towers, with chem spraying, all of it. Do weapons, direct energy weapons. Don't just think a laser beam. Do you not remember the wildfires that stopped perfectly at the Canadian border for miles and miles? It was like a line of demarcation. Stopped perfectly at the Canadian border. Stopped perfectly at the Mexican border. These fires are intentional. Australia, Canada, California. This looks just like Paradise, California. This looks just like the dew weapons from Paradise, California. Yes, there was a fire. Yes, it was really hot. Yes, it was fast. Yes, there was winds. The cars are literally melted to the ground, and there's metal melted flowing, and there's liquid metal flowing into the drains. That's not a natural fire, guys. That's not how fires really work, especially in a city. Don't think just a laser beam, think towers, think a predetermined grid. Think a very high-flying drone with a predetermined grid. You cannot see lasers. You cannot see a gridded out area that gets microwaved. You can have a fire and you can microwave and use the fire as the mask and microwave the area. And it's extremely hard to prove. In Greece, where you have trees burning from the inside out, when you see trees burning from the inside out, that is microwave technology. Oh, did all of them get struck by lightning? That is microwave technology, guys. It's microwave tech. Think eminent domain, salvage laws, adverse possession, uninhabitable, contaminated. They're going to keep those people out of there. FEMA, they're going to block it off. You can't get in there. You can't rebuild. They're going to try to take your land. They're going to try to take the property.